Today's my 17th day on my journey to 2000 in chess on chess.com, and I played 19 games, and I told myself I'm not going to stop playing until I reach 1550. Alongside that, I also analyzed one of the Tata Steel games, which was really hard for me to analyze, to be honest, but I tried my best. Well, maybe not my best. I analyzed it a bit, and then I played those 19 games. So we're going to go over all of that. I also did 11 puzzles, and I watched a video that summarized little parts of that game, of the Tata Steel game. So I'm going to show one of the examples that was very interesting to me. And just to give you an idea of how crazy these games are, look at the accuracy level between these players. 99.1 versus 99.2%, and they're playing like 80 moves. Like, I don't know, to me as like a 1550, that's impressive. Like, that's insane. 99.1 versus 99.3. And these tend to be draws, right? 98.8, 99.6, but it's still really cool to look at. Anyway, I decided to do this, to look at this game, because it was like, let me refresh the page. It was 99.1 versus 99.5, so it was the highest. So it's Notterbeck again versus Prague. And this is how the game went. I have never really seen this opening in people with people that I verse, but he pushes this, I guess, to support the d5 square, and here it's to bring the bishop out, and right away attacks that c4 pawn. And it's interesting how white just can ignore it, fianchetto the bishop, and say, hey, I'm gonna take that pawn later on. I'm gonna first concentrate on all these other things, and I'm gonna take the pawn later on. The interesting thing here as well is that this is a threat on the rook, so that's why the bishop comes here. Whereas if, let's say, the knight came here, I think the difference here is that you could take. Wait, did I screw that up? I probably did. Knight c4. I guess you take that pawn and you're still keeping the pressure. Your bishop is still very strong there. I'm not sure. So anyway, this is what happens. And yeah, whatever. His bishop is still there. The queen is attacking the pawn. And that pawn is just chilling there for so long. Finally gets taken, and we have all these trades. And the bishop takes here. And this is like super interesting to me, because usually like taking the b pawn, it's like a poisoned pawn, right? If you take with the queen or bishop, it could get trapped. And that's what black does. Black pushes the pawn forward. And look at the fascinating way that white gets out of this. So first he attacks the knight so that if takes, you take the knight and it's even, right? Doesn't do that though, he castles. Then he takes the pawn with the idea that if takes, you have the same idea. You could take this knight, which is now defending your queen, and you could trade, and you would be even, I'm assuming, right? Something like this would be even, I'm assuming. Obviously, you don't take this because you blunder your queen. So that is what happened, actually. And here, the bishop comes in to attack the rook, and there's a brilliant move. Why is this a brilliant move? Because you're basically sacking the rook, I'm guessing. But the idea is if you take, you just easily win the game, right? Thankfully, these are like pro players, so they don't hang their queen. The rook comes to protect the queen, and then his rook comes here, which I thought initially was a very weird move. I think the purpose of coming to this specific square, partially, is to bait the bishop to take. Because if he were to take here, this is actually losing for black. And it looks so crazy, right? Because it's a queen, which is similar to two rooks. Oh no, this is just your upper piece. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I guess the idea is after this, you just take the bishop. But he wanted him to bait to take the rook. I'm not sure. Or maybe he was just moving back. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it. So that's a brilliant move because the bishop's gonna die anyway, so you might as well go in with check and then take the queen. I'm guessing that's why. And the rest of the game, I really don't understand. I don't understand endgames enough. I have to study them more. I was trying to, but I just couldn't. Like, I don't understand the process by which they do these moves. Like, I understand the core concept and what you're trying to do. Like, white is trying to create this passed pawn, and he checks so he could push the pawn one step further. But yeah. And then this is interesting. They go back and forth, and it's a tie. Why? Because if white tries to stray away, now black is pushing his own stuff, and well, this would be losing because he could queen. And I think the idea is that black can just come here and watch this pawn while pushing his own pawns forward now. And it's gonna be too late for the king to come here and make stuff happen. So yeah, that was interesting. So that was the game. The funny thing is, this game, and especially the game from yesterday that I looked at, actually helped me in the games I played. So I'm gonna show that. The game I looked at yesterday, so you could watch that video if you'd like, helped me so much on the first game here, even though I screw it up. And it felt like such a cool like set of moves. So this I'm not gonna overanalyze. But basically here I blunder my pawn. That's why they asked me to push this pawn forward. And I make this mistake a lot in my games, that the bishop moves out of the way, allowing for something else to happen. Like for some reason I make that mistake a lot. But I had this plan of, you know what? I'm pushing everything. I'm going to put my king here and my rook's going to attack the queen and maybe I could trap it. Now, it doesn't work because the knight can come here and deliver a fork, which I have to deal with. But I didn't see that. And the other reasoning is that this is mate, so I have to deal with that at the same time. So if I went like here, then he comes here attacking me. So my best move was apparently here. Oh, I guess it's not mate because I come here. But this is like scary. He could just keep checking me and attacking me, I guess. So he didn't see it though. I'm able to get the rook here, and then here I see it. Thankfully, I take some time to look at this move, and I'm like, shit, okay, I have to be clever here. Let me check, okay, and then cover that square. And oh my god, I felt like such a boss, because a lot of professional players, I feel like they move the king forward to make space for the rook to come in, but they do it a bit earlier in the game. They do it a bit earlier in the game. Anyway, I end up doing it. I had like 3 great moves in a row. It made me feel like a god. And my opponent resigned. And the second move, it's a similar thing with bishop movements. I missed the bishop movement. So we're going to rush through this a little bit. Again, we're not overanalyzing every little mistake I make. I realized in the game that this was an awkward and weird move, but I made it anyway. But the primary reason it's weird is because it doesn't defend the b5 square, I think. So here we have all of this going on. And actually, what I noticed was interesting as well. Not all the time, but a lot of times moving this rook here is a move. I guess it's when the king is going to castle there, you're already prepping to push towards the king. So that was very interesting. We're going to see in some future games. But I make all the best moves here. Like, I feel like a god, you know? Like, I played so many games where I made these types of mistakes that I understand how to defend against this position. And here we attack, and this is cool. I could just let the bishop die, get into the position, because after this, I'm attacking the pawn. And it defends the knight. And I even have a threat of checkmate, depending on what when my opponent plays. Anyway, that's not what happens. I start pushing all this stuff. And for some reason, I think this is a legitimate fork. And a few moments later, I play it. Well, I mean, it's because the rook covers that square, and I'm like blitzing out moves like an idiot. And I don't realize the queen defends. Thankfully, I do see it after the bishop comes in, and I move my knight into the position. And this is what I miss. This is what I'm talking about. Bishop movements change the game so much. Bishop and knights. I mean, every piece does. But they're like so subtle sometimes. Like by taking this pawn, it opens up an attack on my queen. And I have to spend a lot of resources trying to protect. And I basically can't. I basically can't protect the bishop as hard as I try. And then the game is essentially over. Like I try to do something and I don't remember if I resigned. Yeah, it looks like I resigned here. Okay. Game number 3. Oh, there's certain like themes in chess that you learn from playing so many games, you know? First of all, Scotch, right? I pride myself, or try to like pride myself in understanding the Scotch, even though I don't really. I was playing all the best moves except here. I didn't realize. I thought, oh, if he takes, I get my knight out, it's good. I didn't realize at this point I could have pushed this pawn. I was scared of this threat. But look at this crazy line that I looked at with the computer, of course, because I'm a loser and I'm lazy and I should study it more, but I didn't. You can let this bishop survive. Because look, it wasn't this line. Where was it? Like, you could essentially trap the queen. I was looking at a line where you could trap the queen. Yeah, I gave up here. The idea was to push. If he pushes, you push again. He takes the rook. And there was some, like, cool stuff here. Okay, in this case, he could just take the... Yeah, this defends the knight. Let's say he takes over here. If he takes this pawn, you could start trapping it. It's, like, so fascinating. Well, okay, I can't find the exact line that I found before. But the point is, like, the bishop covers the escape squares and the bishop, like, everything works together, and then you move the knight out of the way at the last moment to attack. And I've seen this before in the games, but it's like, even now, I can't really analyze it. It's hard for me to understand. Maybe I should have spent more time truly understanding the process there. But apparently I should have been fine with that, which is very interesting, because later on I could try to take out the queen. I think I was just clicking all of this to see what would happen, to be honest, which is not a good idea. But anyway, that's kind of what loses me the game here, and I end up just resigning, because I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Like, I see that I blundered here. I was like, what am I doing? I can't take. Then he takes with check and takes my rook, and I resign. Fourth game, again, bishop movement. This is a theme for today. So this is like Caro-Kann stuff, and I thought for some reason why doesn't anyone ever do this in the Caro-Kann? This looks like a cool trick to and then I'm like, wait, no. It doesn't really do anything. So that was pretty dumb by me. But he defends with a knight, which I recognize right away is a mistake, and I try to take advantage of it. Here's the bishop move that kind of makes me not see stuff. I kept thinking I wasn't dynamic enough in my thinking. I'm thinking I have this one escape square if need be. This is a little tricky because the bishop could watch me here, but if the bishop attacks or the queen or something, like, maybe I could run back here. Okay. I didn't realize when the bishop comes here, it lets me take this pawn, and this would have changed the game, I think, quite nicely. That being said, that doesn't happen. I get my queen and rook forked, and I take the bishop. I thought I was clever. But he could have just taken my knight. I don't know, like, exchanging pieces, sometimes it really confuses me. And here, for once, I did see the pin. I saw that I have check and that it was okay. And my opponent just, like, completely blunders by not taking with the king and hanging his rook. And after that, it was pretty easy to get the advantage, and once I forked his queen and rook, my opponent is resigned. And then in the fifth game, I overextend my pawn right here. I do all the book moves, and then I overextend my pawn where I should just develop. I just have to accept the fact that sometimes positions will result in doubled pawns. I just thought for some reason I could stop this. I couldn't. I let him take my pawn for some reason, but I see the way he's playing, and I think, oh, maybe I have a chance. I just start targeting this queen, you know? I see, okay, I bring the rook in, I have this nice thing, and I had this idea, which I thought was still pretty cool. Apparently, I didn't need to sacrifice anything. This is already threatening a mate, and if this comes, I win the bishop. So I'm just up a bishop. I'm stupid. I have puzzles where I do that, but I'm stupid. I just take with the bishop, but I still get that plan across, you know? So it wasn't like the worst thing ever. There's a line kind of open towards the king, and we're even in material. And here I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna put pressure on these pawns, on the bishop, and just attack the queen. The bishop doesn't really have much room to move. And here there was a very interesting move to just bring the rook here, and you're winning the bishop. There's no additional way that the queen can defend. I didn't see it. I do this instead. I'm thinking more along the lines of here. I thought of this, but I didn't do it for some reason. And the second I make this move, I'm like, wow, I just messed up the whole game. Thankfully, I recover. So, right, this is a checkmate threat. I bring my queen back, offering to trade. He doesn't. and I find the best move. I spend a minute on this. Usually when I spend a minute on a move, I don't find the best move. I find the best move attacking the queen. Now, if he takes, I just take the queen. You know? I don't need to take with the queen here because then he takes my rook. That wouldn't make sense. And I was like, wow, I actually found the best move. And the idea here is if he tries to run away, you could just take the bishop. And you're winning. So very cool stuff. I win, my opponent resigns there. 1572, probably my biggest win. I thought that was really cool. This is game 6. Okay, game 6. Thanks for sticking around, guys, whoever's here. And we get into the Scotch, and he checks with the bishop, which I thought was really weird. So I thought, why not attack it with my pawn and attack the knight? And I'm making the best moves. I'm proud of myself. I'm just, I get the free pawn, and I'm like, okay, what if I defend it this way? Apparently, I just should have attacked the bishop right away, because this bishop is annoying. It wouldn't have a place to go, and I could double his pawns. I'm guessing. The problem I had was that he could just take this pawn, and then... Well, okay, I mean, I guess he won't take it right away. First, he'll do something like this, and take... And actually, then I can spend resources to defending this pawn, I suppose. So, okay. But I didn't think of it that way. I took, and then I finally took, but now his queen was able to come in, so he didn't double his stuff. And this happened, and now he kind of has a pawn that helps him for the center, but he's very open here, And if I take advantage of that, yeah, maybe something could happen. I decided to attack the queen right away, because I like doing that, and I attacked it again, and I thought, okay, wow, he could actually take this. This is not the best move. He could take this. What am I going to do? I guess my only move would be this, and it looks really awkward. Apparently, it's still winning. I have so many pieces developed. His queen is in my position, but can't really do much on its own, but he goes back. So, yeah. This move I thought was super cool. Apparently, it wasn't even that good. Just to attack both knights. And here, I should have taken... But I was scared that he could get into the position somehow, even though he can't. I took this with the idea that if takes, this just looks better, and I have an open line. Probably something like this, and then take. But it doesn't work. Oh, actually, that would have been really bad. Okay. See, I'm missing a lot of these pin ideas. I just didn't realize the knight could take my rook, and I screw up. And I don't realize this insane checkmate threat. So mate threats, I'm not good at realizing, I think. I think I'm really bad with just bishops. I'm just bad with bishops. I'm bad with seeing that when they move out of the way, something happens. I'm bad at seeing checkmate threats with the queen. So it's good. It's good to play a lot of games sometimes to kind of understand that stuff. And here, yeah, because I missed that threat, I lose my bishop. And oops, I have an alarm. And the game progresses. This is crazy. I could have sacked this. And this is better. This is better. But at this point, I mean, I'm essentially losing. And I think I just get mated a few moves later. Yeah, I get mated. This is game 7, and I saw the rating of this person, 1488, and that kind of made me play differently, I feel like. All of this is normal stuff. What I realized here is that a lot of times, I mentioned this a little earlier, the rook can come to actually defend the knight, which is really cool. But I didn't see that, or I didn't think about that. I just brought the queen to protect instead. And this is the scenario that happened. A lot of stuff, basically. And here, I should have just castled. I think the idea here is that if takes, I'm opening up my rook against the king. But I didn't do that. I pushed the pawn to protect my bishop. And then eventually I saw this mistake of this bishop just being for free. But I stupidly played fast. This took me 2 seconds. I was like, oh, check. And the second I played it, I was like, oh, the bishop could just go back. Funny thing is, I'm still winning. And after he castles, I win. And that's why like playing fast sometimes just works. But I don't think it's necessarily good. It's more of a psychological effect. Okay, game 8 was cool. This one was a knight trapping the queen. Maybe this is the game I mentioned earlier. Oh, no, this isn't. Never mind. But here, I thought I could just take the queen and leave. The funny thing is, my opponent resigned here, which makes sense. But the reason why I had to take here first and then continue the game is because this way of defending, if I take the bishop, he actually traps me. Here the knight takes, here the rook or king takes, here the bishop or rook takes, right? I'm trapped no matter what, which is kind of cool. That's why I had to take this, one of the reasons. So I didn't see that, and my opponent didn't see it and resigned. Although naturally I would feel like I would want to do this to attack. So that was bad playing by me. Better would have been to take, and if the bishop takes, I guess the idea here is to play f5 to push the bishop back. And now this works. He can't trap me because there's space that was created. So I could literally just like step back. Okay. Oh wow, I could even sack my... Wow, actually, okay, so that's why it works. Jeez, that's crazy. Anyway, that was against the 1556. I'm versing higher rated players from time to time. Okay. This game, bro. Oh my god. My notes here remind me what it was about. There was a big time scramble. But this is the Scandinavian. I like when people play the Scandinavian. I say it a lot because the queen comes out and people don't really know what to do after that. But you could see here, like, he just brings the queen all the way back, which is the right thing to do. Most people don't do that. Anyway, a few moves later, I love that I'm having this idea of pushing pawns to support the center from like watching the Tata Steel and like professionals, basically master games, and it's like very interesting. So here I have this idea to sack the bishop to get into the position before the bishop could come out and the rook has eyes. And it wasn't the best move. It wasn't the best move because I could have just put pressure this way and he can't really do anything here, right? Like that. You know, if he moves forward, I just have this attack that just wins me a piece. Well, I'm sorry. So let's say he did this and I came here and he took, then I win the queen. If he did something like this, then, well, actually I could win the rook in that case. It's just a very tricky situation. And I get my rook into the position, I bring my queen, I see that my bishop could protect, and you see all of those are great moves, which make me feel cool. And then here I took, which wasn't the best because we end up exchanging rooks, and it just doesn't give me that much of an advantage. Here I quickly calculated that this should be fine, and the rest of the game was... I actually saw the passed pawn. I saw this pawn that it could push, and I knew that that was an asset that I could take control of, but I had a minute left on the clock. So I was really worried. Maybe if I spend more time here, I would have seen this move. Targeting this, he can't push it because then it takes. If he tries to cover, then I push my pawn. Maybe I would have seen that, but I didn't. I pushed this pawn in, well, this takes me 9 seconds. And I pushed this pawn, which is just a big blunder because the queen gets into the position and starts eating everything. But I have 37 seconds and I'm running my king away, and I see that if my opponent is not careful, I could promote. And I do. With 33 seconds left on the clock, I'm like, I actually do some quick analysis. I'm like, no, I'm going to take the time to actually think about it because it's going to be worth it. There's like, I spend like 13 seconds on this move thinking, okay, if takes, can I stop this promotion with the queen? Like, I probably can, but let me try to calculate something. And I do. I calculate some stuff. It's not the best stuff, but I get a general idea of getting into the position and taking all his pawns. And here I have 8.5 seconds left. And I'm like, no, that's it. I have to find a way. How do I break through this position? And here he could take my queen and he's just winning, but he misses it. This man has 2 minutes on the clock, but he's trying to flag me. I have 6 seconds, 5.1 seconds, 3.8 seconds. I'm just struggling. How do I get into the position? With 0.5 seconds left, I run out of time and I lose the game. This game. Oh my god, this game annoyed me because if I just spent 1 second to take, it would have been a draw. But no, I got flagged. Oh man, I didn't spend time even analyzing it because this game, like, I was like just so sad. But it's good to look at. If I just brought my king closer, that's it. He literally can't do anything to protect the pawn. That's all I needed to do. I needed to have the king and the queen touching the pawn. And I think I knew that, but for some reason I was scared that, well, I was scared that something like this would happen without me paying attention. That my queen could just hang. Because I didn't have enough time. That was a sad game. That was a sad game. The cool thing is, after that game, that was game 9. You would think that I play bad because of that game, right? I just play fast. Well, I did. I ended up playing fast because of that. And you could see not the best moves being made. I'm not thinking as much as I can. The whole reason for all of this is because in the beginning of this game, I know how people play, man. And I knew that he was gonna sack something. Oh no, it wasn't this game that he sacked. No, I just played this bad. I just played it really bad. The rook could have came at any point to put pressure on my king. And I spent a minute and a half. My opponent also only spent like a minute by this point. And somehow I equalize. Almost. And I'm aware of the knight coming into my position. So at least I'm aware of that. But I don't do a good enough job of protecting my pawns. This isn't a great example. There's 7 minutes on the clock. Well, you know, like, look at... it's just... I'm not going to overanalyze this. I think I was just annoyed from the previous game. And I try to do something, and at this point I'm like, okay, it's impossible. And I resign here. Okay. In this game, I also played fast. Look at this, only 2 seconds passed. I mean, okay, these moves are not that insane, but I'm playing fast, and we traded a bunch of stuff, and here, again, I pin myself to my queen. I just keep, like, doing this in all my games. It's a good lesson, though. It's a good lesson, but I just undervalue the rooks. And this is actually very interesting. It's telling me to take the rook and lose my queen, because that's the best way to get out of it, and it's almost equal material. So, very interesting. I end up losing only a pawn, getting out of it, figuring it out, but I'm still only a minute. My opponent 57 seconds on the clock. And here I just completely screw up, but I see it. I see that I hang the pawn, I go to protect it, and I'm trying to protect everything, and then I just blunder this pawn. I'm just blundering, my opponent is blundering, and then they give me a rook. And the game just turns on its head. I'm like, okay, let me just go for these. These 3 pawns are what's scary. I go for them. I play smart, and I eventually win with 2 queens and a rook. So I kind of recover. In the next game here, I played decently, but I also played fast. I think the fact that I lost on time just got me really annoyed. And I like how fast... I played fast, but I like how quickly I got into the position. I made so many threats. I saw that I could check with my queen, and I didn't see the bishop coming into the position, but I saw my rook could attack the queen, and I'm like, okay, slowly but surely I'll start putting pressure there. Apparently, they're like, yo, just push the pawn. And I kind of ignore that. I trade. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a better position. My rook's in the game. My king is much more solidly placed. And yeah, let's trade a rook. And look at this. I have 5 minutes left. My opponent has a minute. I'm the one flagging this time. You know, that's how I'm feeling. And I don't go for this pawn because I just want to keep the pressure here on the knight for some reason. And here my opponent runs out of time. Yeah, somehow we both played like 1650s. My accuracy wasn't that bad. And I think at this point, because I had 2 games where I, played really fast and I won, I don't like to play fast. I want to actually think through my moves. So I felt good about myself. I'm like, okay, I can start thinking again. I mean, this is a very typical, like, beginning, so I knew how to play against it. And here is very interesting. Usually this becomes very annoying for me very quickly. Like if something like this, the queen comes here right away, and I don't have a good way to actually do anything, to take out this pawn. It's a very annoying pawn to take out. In this case, though, they're saying just take it. If you trade, it's okay. And I think the purpose here is that since this pawn no longer exists, but queens are off the board, there's less pressure in the position, and your king is going to be okay. I don't do that. Instead, I take with my pawn, and I get into this really bad position where my bishop is trapped. But we both don't see it because, okay, I said I'm playing slower. I'm still playing too fast, even though it is slower. Here we equalize. And you could just see both of us are making mistakes. It's a very awkward, weird position. My whole purpose here is trying to trade off pieces. Trying to trade off pieces because I'm scared. There's a lot of stuff coming towards me. What we both fail to recognize, again, there's certain themes today out of these 19 games. One of them is like when bishop moves, things happen, especially pins against my queen. I have to be aware of pins against my queen. And bishops in front of my queen, whether it's mine or my opponent's. But the pins all come from the rooks. So really, it's rook. Rook play is like insane. Like just putting pressure with rooks is so powerful when the position is open. That's what I'm realizing more and more. And thankfully, I get into a position where I try to simplify things and make everything easier. And I kind of get close to equalizing. You know, the position is not lost. And here, I'm like, let me sack my rook and push my pawns. You know what? That was a terrible decision. I had a minute and a half left. I actually ended up spending my time thinking. Bringing my rook back still has an eye on this pawn and gives me a few turns, which is something that I didn't put enough stock into. But again, I had a minute and a half left, so I'm not going to overanalyze that. And you know, my opponent just spent some time, and I think I just play it through because I'm kind of annoyed, and I resign here. I'm mean, and I don't let them get the victory. Let's go, Brandon. That's a funny profile. Okay. Which was this game? Game 14. We're almost done, guys. Thanks for sticking through. This is gonna be the longest video probably. So I knew that here, this was the Tartakower, I think it's called. Yes! I remember this just from analyzing Master games in the past. And I kind of like that position. I don't play it that well, but I like it. And I know that taking here is just bad. I just blitzed out this move. It's 4 seconds both of us have spent. I just know it's bad. The thing here, I just completely screw up, is my bishop. You know, I mean, this is a typical trick, and I just completely screw it up, and that kind of loses me the initiative. Like, this game's not going well, and I think here I resign. I see that it's a lost game. I just screwed up the entire game. So nothing much to say there. I blitzed too much. I missed the knight attack on my bishop, you know? Here I played 81.4% accuracy. We have the Scotch. Finally, someone who plays the Scotch classical variation, because I know it. And I know that usually you come with the knight here, you bring the bishop here, and then both sides castle, and then you fight. That's kind of like the typical moves, at least the moves that I know. But he brings the bishop back. And I don't really understand why this pawn, maybe it's to fianchetto, maybe it's to put more, bring more support for the center. I don't really understand, but I bring the bishop out, you know, develop the bishop. Maybe I'll study that in the future. And I'm just bringing pieces out, and here I blunder. Again, because of pros, I see the F pawn pushing when your king is safe. I do it a move too late. And the idea is very simple. The idea is a checkmate threat. And I'm actually spending time thinking here. I'm just making bad moves. Here, taking is best, because if takes or whatever, the queen gets into the position. Right? You have a lot of pressure as white. My opponent runs away with the knight, which is, I think, kind of crazy. And I'm still not playing the best moves, but I have this idea to bring my king out of the way and bring my rook into the game, maybe even trapping the queen. Oh, the amount... I feel like we went over this game. Did we go over this game, or am I crazy? But the amount of happiness I got here... Oh my god. So nice. So nice. Like, I'm trapping the queen. And it felt so nice. Like, oh, the amount of times I looked over this game, my opponent resigns here because they see that their queen is lost. And this is kind of interesting. Instead of moving the rook, it says to take the bishop. Because the queen is still trapped. Like, if the queen comes here, I think the idea is you can come here. and attack. Oh no, you just ignore it. Wow, you're just getting into the position. Oh, anyway, my opponent resigns here. That was so cool. Anyway, it was interesting. Lots of exchanges confused me, but this is the notes I wrote. But I saw like a puzzle. I calculated, but it was winning already to trap the queen, and I was proud of. Wait, is it that game or was that the next game? I'm dumb. Game 19, 18, 17. Oh no, that was this game. I just spoiled it. This game, I saw the blunder right away with the bishop. Then I recovered and felt like a boss because I saw the pro game move with the rook. It moved the king forward and bring the rook into the game. I have to analyze more pro games, to be honest. But I mean, I got to 1550, so I did something right. Here, I just forgot how the scotch works. Checking is the right move, and if he blocks with the queen, then you just trade. This is better. It's something I need to study more. I don't really understand why this is better. I guess you're right away develop. It's very easy to develop. Maybe you could castle, put your rook here. Maybe that's the idea. Not sure exactly. Anyway, I don't do any of that. I forgot how the scotch works, and he just pushes all of his stuff. And look how many misses we have here. Apparently, when I analyze this, you could just push the pawn and like lose the bishop because you're still putting pressure here. And he can't take. And this pawn is actually really annoying. Maybe you have ideas to check in the future and to attack. It's like, I don't know, I just thought about defending my bishop. I didn't think about anything else. And even here, I had the same exact idea still present here. And like, this gives a check. It's like it's so crazy. It's such a crazy looking position. But I'm winning like crazy. I'm putting pressure. My king is still safe even though he has a pawn almost promoting. And we just have these misses like the whole game. And here taking with the queen to put pressure was better because of a knight move. I keep missing knight moves. I keep missing knight moves. And the idea is not this move. So here, he wouldn't be able to run away, right? So that was my miss there. But what I thought was messed up is that, oh, the knight takes my queen. And it's like a knight move. Like, I didn't see that. I'm not happy that I didn't see that. And the funny thing is, I didn't see to just take the bishop and put pressure on the rook. Like, I'm just not seeing anything. Part of it here is I'm just blitzing out moves, I think. And here, I'm, like, losing. I lose because now he's up material. He tries to get his king to safety, but I see this because of puzzles. Winning the bishop and the rook, I was so proud of that move. I felt like it should have been a brilliant, but you know, whatever. And then I just protect my bishop and I deal with the pawn. Something I got much better with, maybe this is why I reached 1550, is dealing with these threats of pawns in the endgame. Like a lot of times in the past, I just ignored them. Now I intentionally got my bishop and my pawn together so the rook couldn't come in here and just tried to deal with the problems here before trading. And I think that was the right decision. Like if we look here, I just eventually the position becomes very easy to hold and my opponent resigns. Okay, game 17. Again, I get confused with lots of exchanges. And specifically with the type that happens in this game. I love how it just goes back and forth with the bishop captures. And it's when a pawn could capture. And then capture another piece. This is like the idea that I miss. And the reason it's a blunder right here is because the pawn could capture and it's threatening two pieces. And that's literally it. That's why not dealing with that threat by running away was a bad move. And I don't see it. I don't see those types of moves because I guess I disregard pawn. I don't know. I just don't think about it enough. Thankfully, my opponent doesn't see it. I get it out of the position, and I'm putting a lot of pressure. And because I'm thinking like, this is one of those cases where I'm okay if he takes me. Like I might have back rank mate ideas, right? I was thinking of that. And then right away, I blitz this out in 20 seconds. I see this. I'm like, oh my God, that is such a beautiful move. And I knew I was winning after that. I was so proud of that. I like calculated if the bishop comes and if I take and if he blocks and if I take and he takes with his bishop. Like I calculate all this stuff. It's easy stuff to calculate at this point, and I'm winning and my opponent resigns. I have 2 rooks for a bishop. It's just beautiful. Like that was such a beautiful moment in the game. The fact that it even got to this position is pretty crazy too. And it's against the 1566. Again, for some reason I feel like we went over these games, but we didn't. These are all different games. I guess I looked at them for a while. Okay. Game 18. We're almost done. In this game, this was a crazy game. There's a similar idea with the rook coming in to defend the knight. Again, something I don't do. And again, I think putting pressure here. But I'm not exactly sure why this is better than bringing the knight out. Maybe it's because the bishop doesn't get blocked that way and you have more options with the knight and the bishop what to do. Because in the rook in the beginning, you know, it's not really doing much. Maybe that's why. That would make sense in my head. Anyway, I kind of push the bishop away. Then I take and I end up forking. I missed that fork, but I don't miss this fork. And here I'm just winning. Here I'm winning. I take this pawn because that's... I just want to put pressure on everything. And this pawn I know can be annoying, and the rook coming in doesn't do anything. But I'm scared of this rook coming in on this open file. My opponent doesn't do any of that for some reason. And I see this nice move attacking the queen. Queen goes back, I take the pawn. Still, I feel pretty confident in this position, and I bring my rook to take control of the open file. Here's where the game falls apart. I just try to create like this fortress, try to protect everything, and I don't. I mess it up. Right here, the best move was to continue putting pressure on this knight, and actually at one point he could sack the rook to bring the other rook in. Again, rooks. It's always rooks. So I'm thinking I'm creating this fortress, but I'm really not. But because my opponent doesn't make the best moves, it actually ends up being pretty good. So here I had this nice knight move that attacks the queen and kind of gets him out of the way. And the engine says, hey, just trade, this is winning. Or this is neutral, I guess. I didn't do that. And at this point, I have 1 minute 55 seconds. I'm like panicking. I'm trying to calculate things. And I missed that the rook could come in, but my opponent doesn't. I'm clearly losing this game. Like, that's it. I lost. And, well, my opponent blunders. See, I start getting really low on time. I'm at 17.6 seconds. My opponent's at 1 minute. And I think my opponent was trying to flag me or something. I'm not sure. But maybe he just saw the pawn and forgot that his rook would be hanging. I was very cognizant of where all my pieces were. I was trying to make everything work. But at this point, I'm just blitzing out moves. I don't see the knight capture. But I see that my knight protects my queen. And I see I could block like this to prevent any more checks. And look how beautiful this is. With 9.8 seconds, I get a checkmate. The game just turned around. And this is the last game. Like, so many of these games were interesting. The Karo Khan, kind of similar to before. It forces my king to move. I can't castle. And here, this is pretty crazy. I was scared of the queen coming here and something like this. Like, I was scared of this. Apparently, my best move was to defend like this, and now his queen is gone. It's trapped, and I could ignore it. Like, this is crazy. I can take this. Like, look, he can't take this. He can't take. He can't come here. He can't come here, 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 or here. Like, the queen is trapped. So, I can ignore it, and I could start doing stuff. So here we see, like, this is, I just saw what the engine would do because I was curious. Like, look how much you could do. You could even let him take the other rook. No. It's still trapped here. So his only move is to take the rook and go out taking the rook. Like, it's so crazy. So crazy, but I don't see that. I calculate a few moves and I get scared and I don't take with the knight. And he castles this way. And I don't understand why people do this. Like, why would you castle that way? You're in such a good position. Apparently it was pretty neutral already, but I thought that castle gave me winning chances. And it did. I just completely take advantage of everything. This move doesn't work. I analyzed it because he could actually run away with the king, which is very interesting. Like he just runs away. So, or blocks or whatever. So this was the best move because then he can't run away. He can't take because this covers, can't take because the knight covers, so he would have to like sack this. Or if he takes with the knight, then I get the fork and I get the queen. And I see my knights are super powerful here, and I end up going for the fork, and he resigns. And I see the rook being a threat here, right? Which is why I moved the bishop here. And initially, I was like, that's such a brilliant move. And then if he goes here, I have this move. And that's exactly what happened. So I hope you guys enjoyed. You actually watched all that? Say mouse in the comments so I know. Appreciate you, and have a good one. Bye-bye.